Hi, my name is Jacqueline Folker. I'm an integrated English language arts education major with a thematic sequence in art education. I chose art education because creativity and self-expression are two of the things I value most in life, not to mention that I love to create art and just the artistic process in general. My number one takeaway from 295 is to get experience. You can read about art and education as much as you want, but you will never truly understand it until you have experienced it. Completing field experience and having the opportunity to teach a lesson gave me a better idea of what art education actually is. My number two takeaway from 295 is to just be confident. I was never really an art kid, and sometimes I can feel nervous in the art building because the art kids just exude confidence. This class showed me that everyone makes mistakes and you need to make yours confidently. Don't worry too much about them and then try again later. Getting ready to teach at Kramer, I really didn't know what to expect despite assisting my peers in their lessons. I worried about going over or under the time and not being engaging, but I tried not to think too much about it. Practicing my lesson with my team and writing out every single little thing I wanted to say definitely helped ease my worries. My lesson was about silly poems and stories, so I based it around the limericks of Edward Lear, also known as the father of limericks, and taught students how you can express different feelings, including silliness, through art. So I gave them some really silly limericks and asked them to draw the funny part of their assigned poem using crayons and markers. I think my lesson went really well, and all of the students came up with some really creative drawings. Mrs. Korb suggested that I break the information tasks up more in the future so that the students aren't overwhelmed. Looking back, I can see how that would have helped a lot by keeping them engaged with the material throughout the entire process. I wasn't entirely sure what team teaching was going to look like when I first heard about it, but teaching in teams was really fun and took a lot of the pressure off. I really couldn't have done it without my team. My team was really encouraging and helpful throughout the entire process. It's also fun to play assistant to the lead teachers on their lesson days and not worry about whether I was teaching. I had the privilege of completing my field experience at Brookville Elementary School in Indiana with Miss Mary Sorrells. In her classroom, I helped a lot with supplies prep and hanging work for the school and community to see, which she was really big on, including the community and what they were doing in her art classroom. Miss Sorrells only had 30-minute class periods with only 5 minutes in between each one, so being organized and engaged was absolutely essential to make sure everything got done. In fact, Miss Sorrells is probably one of the most organized people I have ever met. Everything had its place, and she had everything done exactly when it needed to be done, sooner rather than later. Due to the extremely short class periods, there was little to no sense of community. Relationship building is what I considered to be the most important aspect of education, and it was definitely lacking in this classroom. It is noticeable in the students' attitudes toward each other, toward Miss Sorrells, and toward themselves and their artwork. I absolutely love to write because when I write, I realize that I am writing about things that I haven't even thought about before, and the reflection process is no different. Reflecting through writing about my experiences allowed me to realize thoughts and opinions that I didn't even know I had by forcing me to externalize my subconscious observations. My favorite part of the reflection process is when we reflected as a class. The brainstorming nature of those reflections allowed us to bounce ideas off each other and get better at thinking on our feet, advocating for our ideas, and supporting our ideas with sound reasoning. At Kramer Elementary, Mrs. Korb did the impossible. She handled her classroom with a quiet and gentle authority. Her first grade students were completely attentive and engaged with every single word she said, and I am positive it is because of the calming way that she spoke to them. I even felt like I was in a trance. Because of what I noticed in Mrs. Korb's classroom, I am now a firm believer in that maintaining a quiet authority lends itself to classroom management because the mutual respect between Mrs. Korb and her students was blatantly obvious and fostered a positive classroom atmosphere. Her classroom atmosphere is the kind that I want to have. My team-based learning team was ready to jump right into creating our ideal space, and we all kind of figured it would all just come together. But the planning phase was so essential to the process, I can't even imagine what a mess we would have made without it. Our original ideas were so over the top and unrealistic. Our ideal space was natural, welcoming, intentional, and open. I really enjoyed the process as well as our final product. I think our ideal space is definitely attainable through advocating for yourself and for your students. My future classroom will probably look eerily similar to the one that we designed. I loved making a quote unquote whole brain with my teammates because that meant we worked so much better together than by ourselves or with people exactly like us. Readiness assessment tests and the Ideal Space project went a lot smoother than I would have expected because of this. I definitely want to incorporate HBDI or something extremely similar into my future classroom's writing groups. My advice for future 295 students is to embrace collaboration. As someone who likes to work alone, team-based learning was something that I was definitely very weary of at first, but my team is what made me look forward to coming to class and is what made all of our projects run so smoothly. My hope for Art 296 is that I get to meet more people whose beliefs and views are different from mine, but that we find some common ground, just like I did with my classmates this year. While normally I dread group work, I'm looking forward to more with more new, wonderful people. I also hope to become a more confident teacher and learn how to fully engage with my students instead of worrying about what I'm doing. I hope to be a teacher that loves my students well. I want them to feel comfortable around me. I want them to feel free to be themselves and express themselves in whatever way they choose. If I can't make them look forward to coming to school, I hope I can help them enjoy it while they're there. And just maybe, one day they'll remember our little classroom with fondness.